Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the ARL Sportscars Championship Season 1. We are here for round 5 of this championship and it's been a pretty entertaining season so far. We've had really fantastic banging wheels, banging doors even, wheel-to-wheel racing this entire season. And now we come to a track which I'm not quite sure it will give us the same action, but nonetheless it should be absolutely fantastic nonetheless. My name's Aaron Smith. And this time, we miss Matthew. Don't know where he's gone, but instead, in his place, we've got Ron Mons in the other commentary booth, and in the production hall, as normal, it's Joshua Wilkie. And, well, you only just bought this track, Ron. It's you haven't got too much experience here. I don't think many people do. Do you want to go through the track map and give us your thoughts on it as well?
Well, despite the fact that I just bought this track today, I have gotten a decent amount of experience on it in the past few hours, and let me tell you, this track is incredibly difficult. You can see a whole lot of corners for these drivers to negotiate. We start off with turn number 1, which is really tricky from my perspective to get right, just in terms of balancing when you want to get on the brakes. Driving in the GT4 car that I did, I felt like I overslowed every single time I went into that corner. Really hard to get right, and also really easy to pick up a slowdown if you run a teeny tiny bit wide. Then you head through turn number 2 and 3 there, fairly fast kinks. Turn number 3 uphill, a real tricky corner to get right because you're balancing on the edge of grip. It is a razor thin margin that you have to use going around that corner. And then you go into turn number 4 and 5 there. I'll tell you what, turn number 5 is, I think, my version of hell on earth. That was an incredibly tricky corner from my experience driving on it earlier on this afternoon. I didn't get that right a single time that we were driving around here. Thankfully, I'm not a very good driver. There's a main reason why I'm behind the microphone instead of behind the wheel of one of these race cars. So hopefully the drivers here in this series will have a far better time managing their grip around that section. Then you go through a very tight and twisty section. You go through turn number 6 and 7. Then you head through turns 8, 9, and 10. Those are real tricky corners as well. Turn 10, it felt like I never got that right on any single lap that I did. Then you head through one of the longest straightaways here on this lap. It's not really a straightaway because you're turning most of the time, time. Then you head into turns number 12, 13, 14, and 15. That section right there is a real pain in the butt, but it's also really rewarding if you get it right. It's fairly flat, the surroundings around this track, so there's not a whole lot of areas to judge off of in terms of where to turn, where to brake. It's really tricky to try and get it right, and if you get a teeny tiny bit wrong, you're going to be in for a world of hurt. Turn number 15 and 14 as well, incredibly important section there. Then you go on to this massive back straightaway. This is going to be a huge overtaking opportunity. You can see turns 16 and 17. We won't be using that section of the course. That's a regular Grand Prix layout. We'll be running on the Moto layout here, which is much challenging. It has this turn 16 and 17 there, rounding their way down the inside. That is a tricky corner, 2 apexes to try and deal with. It's a real tough track, this, but I think it's also going to be a blast for all these drivers.
I think nonetheless in the Sportscars Championship, I think they could go to Monaco and we'd probably still end up having wheel-to-wheel racing. Going up all the way to the casino, to be honest, they have no fear. And I understand that, it's on a sim, but I genuinely think in real life it would be the same thing, because for some reason, touring cars do that to people. They remove fear from the human body. But anyway, let's get into the points, and we're going to start off with the GT4 Pro Championship as probably the most interesting one so far. It's Lucas Tailman, who, like we discussed last week, necessarily hasn't been the quickest, but definitely has improved over the last few rounds. And well, last week he got that win over Carter Lundy. It was a very, very close finish. It was looking like until we found out that Lundy had underfueled the car and then just slowly slipped down the order. And it's only 8 points between those two. You'll probably see them going wheel to wheel all the way throughout this season. Everyone else has got a bit of catching up to do. Pascal Sticks and Lewis Ward were having a nice ding-dong last week as well. Lewis unfortunately had a poor pit stop, which left him all the way down the order again. And then Luca Nadeo in 5th, a little bit far behind. And then the rest of the pro grid have got some learning to do from the top drivers. Then we're going to head into the GT4 ARMS, which has been a bit more dominant from Dominic Engel. Although last week at Zandvoort, he could not get the win. I believe it was... no, actually, he did. I'm going to correct myself. It was very close in the end, but I can't remember who exactly it was, but it was one of the drivers in the lead that... It was so close, and then on the last lap, they ended up spinning out of the race and gave Dominic Engel another win, which... made the championship look a little bit more easy for him. He's nearly 30 points ahead at this point in the season. You got to say he's probably the favorite at the moment. But now we're going to move on to the TCRs, and again the Pro Championship looking a bit more interesting as Tranquil Lin. I mean, that comeback at Zandvoort, I'm pretty sure most of you witnessed it. It could have been first place from last for the Italian, but in the end, he had an incident with one of the top GT4 cars, and in the end, it was Damien Harris who ended up taking the win. And well, what a fantastic win it was for him. He pretty much was in control of the race mostly, and Graciano didn't show up last time, so hopefully he can put some pressure on the top 2 drivers in the TCR Pro category. And then last, but by no means least, we have the TCR ARMS, which we're going to pull up in just a second for you. Again, the AM category has been a bit more set as San Martin leads the way. Didn't have an amazing round last time out, got to be said. It's getting better slowly, the TCR ARMS. It's becoming more and more close, which is what we want to see. De Silva putting in some nice, consistent performances. Russ Fowler as well, and Gavin Gardner with that absolutely gorgeous pink livery. And, well, we'll see what he can do today. But now we're off of the points. I think we can have a look at the team's points, actually. I nearly forgot. God, there's so many points to go through in this championship. Well, this is hard we keep count, honestly. But first, we got the GT4 championship in the teams, and at the moment, it's Delatraz Automotive, who, again, just putting in some nice, consistent performances. Of course, Tailman carrying at the top right now. Core Sim Racing as well. That's going to be a good little battle between those two for the championship. And then everyone else is fairly far behind. You got Scuderia Volp in 3rd place. Again, 60 points behind 2nd place. That's quite a big gap already. Rethink Core Sim Racing, though. That'll be an interesting battle for 3rd place. And then in TCRs, ADX have been really, really good so far this season. The Italians really are putting on a fantastic show in the TCR's Hydro race. Only about 15 odd points behind. Got a bit of catching up to do. Firebird Sim Racing, Mag Performance, and Wave Italy probably should be doing that tiny bit better. But Wave Italy have only got one driver at the moment, and I have the feeling if they had another one, they'd probably be well within the fight. Well, we've just gone through, what, about 6 championships, so I'm going to save my breath for a few minutes while you take the reins, Ron.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Aaron, I give you a lot of credit. Usually I'm out of breath reading at 3 championship results during the Weekend Warriors series here on Apex Racing TV. You just did 6 without breaking a sweat, so my props go out to you. And my props go out to a lot of these drivers. We're coming up towards the end here of this qualifying session. Not a whole lot of time left to go here, and we already see some interesting results at the moment. It's currently Nadeo in the Mercedes at the front of GT4 Pro there. 2 Mercedes at the front of both GT4 categories. And then it's absolute Hyundai dominance there in the TCR category. I'll tell you what, I was hearing some of the interviews, mainly from Carter Lundy after the race at Zandvoort 1 week ago, and he was mentioning how the BMWs aren't the best in the world of GT4 race cars. Full transparency, folks, I was driving in the BMW. It's the only GT4 car I own here in iRacing, and it was a very... I didn't have too much of an issue driving that car. I didn't really spin out too much. It was mainly that wretched turn number 5 that I was struggling with the most, and I think he may want to eat his words after this, because it's currently Talman and Strat there in P2 and P3 in the GT4 Pro category, both running in the BMW, and in GT4 AM you can see their hair pokes in the BMW in second right now. So I think the BMWs may not be struggling for pace as much as they were kind of expecting to heading into this race. This track, it's a lot of twists and turns, very, very technical, and you're also going to be clobbering the curbs when you can find them. Ooh, that's some rally action there. Going on to this long back straightaway. This is going to be a big one as well. I'm curious, because we're not running on the Grand Prix layout and we don't have that heavy braking zone going into the hairpin at the end of this back straightaway, will we see drivers attempt to go for a move heading into that final very long left-hand sweeper to close off this lap? What do you think, Aaron?
Well, I think it's definitely going to be one of the better bits of action today. And turn 60, I don't actually think I've ever seen a broadcast or really a main series use this MotoGP layout, because we don't have bikes on this service, which in my opinion is a good thing. I hate bikes. Yet, yeah, let's not. I do not want bikes on this. I don't know how they'd even implement them, to be honest. But it would be interesting, to say the least. But I think it would have been better had we used the normal GP layout. Hey, you got to run with what you have. So we're just going to stick with this layout. And, well, over the past few minutes, it's been ramping up the qualifying session. I was about to say Carter Lundy hasn't even put in a lap time, and then he did and went on top of the timing sheets. I can't say I'm surprised. He's been absolutely dominant in qualifying this season. In the race, though, has shown a lot of, he's not perfect, got some things to iron out, has the Canadian, but I know for a fact our production man Joshua Wilkie will be cheering for him secretly. As Carter Lundy there, one, that was definitely an off track, and two, drifting his way through that corner there, definitely not going to help his lap time, although he is currently on the pole by about 1.5 tenths, which is not actually too big of a gap round here, to be honest. It is a very, very long lap time here. And these cars are fairly quick. It's nearly 2 minutes long. It's over 2 minutes in the TCRs, in fact. And, well, like you said, Ron, it's absolutely dominated by the Hyundais this week. There's one lone Audi on top of the spot in TCR AM right now, but I have no idea where the Hondas have gone. They seem to be absolutely nowhere this week. So pray for those in the Civic. Again, it wouldn't have been my car of choice anyway, since the Hyundai just looks better. Honestly, half the time I choose my car based on looks, not how quick it is. But here we go. Adam Brown, where's he going to be? 8th place, not too shabby. He's been fairly consistent this season so far. Just been a little bit off the mark. And I believe that's going to be the end of qualifying. There's only one driver left out on track, and I don't believe he's going to be improving on his lap time anytime soon. But surprise, surprise, it's everyone's favorite Canadian on top of the timing sheet once again for GT4 Pro. And, well, he's that qualifying pace from Carter Lundy is something to behold, isn't it?
Oh, Carter Lundy is a very fast driver. He's one that I have personal experience with when it comes to the Radical side here on iRacing. He's run a lot in the Radical Esports Cup official broadcast that we have every single Friday, and I believe he also runs in either the Radical Americas or Radical European Championship that's also broadcast here occasionally on Sundays here on Apex Racing TV. He is fast in those Radicals, and those Radicals are very quick race cars. They grip quite nicely. They have a whole lot of power from a Ford EcoBoost engine, and he is usually up towards the front in those races. And as my colleague J.R. Gregory on those Radical broadcasts always says, if you can master those Radicals, you can master anything here in the sim. And I think Carter Lundy's experience in those Radicals may be the reason why he's always fast here in these GT4 race cars. But these races here with the ARL Sports Car Series are much longer than we usually see from those Radicals, so we'll just have to wait and see if he can piece it together here.
Well, pray for me, folks. I've got 38 drivers to go through, so crack the knuckles, crack the neck. Here we go. Carter Lundy on pole position for the fourth time in a row this season. He's been fantastic in qualifying. Let's see if he can improve on his race today. Then Lucas Tailman in second place, your championship leader in GT4 Pro. Then it's Luca Nadeo, who momentarily held provisional pole, but unfortunately just couldn't get that last few tenths out of the rest of the grid. And here is the rest of the grid. Francois Strat in fourth place, Pascal Stiggs in fifth, Mike Pulich in sixth place, Desi in seventh, Brown in eighth, Rampazzo in ninth is your GT4 AM pole sitter, Lewis Ward in 10th place, Luca Phillip in 11th, Dominic Engel in 12th place, then it's Herpau in 13th, Robert Eaton in 14th, Schnebel in 15th, Carpenter 16th, Zelke in 17th, Grob in 18th, Dubau in 19th, Johns in 20th, Drakalsic in 21st, Dovalet in 22nd, Damien Harris is on pole for in TCR Pro, and then Graziano is here today. He lines up second place in TCR Pro, 24th overall. Bonacorsi in 25th, San Martin is on pole for TCR AM in 26th, Sam Blees in 27th, Mariano in 28th, Gavin Gardner in 29th, Riviera 30th, Welly in 31st, Manners 32nd, Fowler 33rd, De Silva 34th, Fabio Viola in 35th, Kovacs in 36th, Dewhurst in 37th, and Gilmore in 38th. I've just about gotten through all of that in just under a minute, so I'm fairly proud of myself. I'm glad there's not the 50 cars that there were at the start of the season, but we've only got a couple more seconds until they get underway behind that safety car. And luckily, this isn't Road America or Sebring, where it has the longest formation lap in the world. We've only got one corner this time, which is very refreshing. But let's see who's going to have the biggest cojones into turn one. Who's going to come out with the biggest kudos? For those of you who used to play Project Gotham Racing, you know exactly what I'm on about. Let's hope they can keep a big enough gap to the TCRs, as last week it was fairly clustered at Zandvoort. I don't think they quite left enough of a gap between those two categories, and it just ended up in an absolute cluster F as they went into turns 3 and 4. And it looks like they are leaving a bigger gap this time round as the safety car pulls away from the first place man of Carter Lundy. And now it's up to the Canadian when he's going to step foot on that gas pedal and go racing. Tailman's going to have the reactions of a panther if he wants to beat his man. And well, Carter Lundy has gone very, very early, and we are green. We are going here at Motorland Aragon. It's fairly clean from the front runners. It's going to be Lundy into turn 1. Nadeo looking up the inside of Tailman, didn't quite get it done. There's a spinner in the background. There's 2, 3, 4 cars, I think, going around. Now we cut back to the TCRs. At the moment, I believe it's Graziano who's got a really good start. He's taken the lead from Damien Harris, who's all the way back down in 4th. He's had an awful start, has the Englishman. I don't know what happened to him. He started on pole in TCRs and he's fallen down the order. It's chaos here at the start of Aragon. Got some GT4 cars who are going to have to make their way back through, some TCRs as well, just back in the midfield where they wouldn't want to be. Damien Harris is one of those drivers who had a fantastic race last time out, of course, winning at Zandvoort, but this time round, he's down in the midst of the chasing pack. Let's hope he can keep it clean on the end of this first lap. But we're coming towards, I'd say, around turn 7 now, and it's been a bit chaotic. Let's hope it can keep it clean for the rest of this first lap.
I was actually heading into turn 8 and 9. They're a very fast section for sure, trying to scrub off as much speed as you can before you go on to this first back straightaway here. And we're going to take a look at a replay of the Schmazel that rocked the start of this race. This is a man that dropped back like a rock at the very beginning. You can see him heading his way into turn number 1 there. And I think, maybe just... yeah, what in the world happened there? You can see the GT4s scattered around. Thankfully, they got out of the way of the encroaching TCRs before any major Schmazels happened there when they came out of turn number 1. But I'm not sure what happened to Repulsator there in TCR for him to drop back so much.
Yeah, neither do I, to be honest. He literally crossed the line in 4th, so I'm genuinely shocked at what happened. I don't know if he had a spin or what on earth happened to him. I don't know why iRacing would have let him do that. Maybe a technical problem, but, you know, whether we can find it on the replays or we'll just have to ask him after the race. We'll get it for you at some point during this race, but we're going to come back to the lead of the Grand Prix right now. I shouldn't say Grand Prix, as FOM will be on me. I'm not going to say that, but here we go. Here we believe we have found the reason why Damien Harris fell all the way down the order. And well, this is when they're just warming up their tyres for the start, and he's going quite slow. Admittedly, seems to be backing up the pack. Maybe he was going too slow, and iRacing told people to overtake him. We're going to keep an eye on it until we go all the way to the green flag. It's a very odd incident. Just overall, I'm genuinely shocked, and yeah, he's just going very, very slow. And my guess, I think my guess genuinely is because when the light goes green for the cars in front, it counts for the cars behind as well. So everyone else went green and they overtook him, but obviously because iRacing, you know, it thinks the race has started. So yeah, that's the only thing I can think of. And that's really unlucky for Damien Harris, and I feel really bad for the guy, but you know, at the end of the day, he was going a bit slow, and, well, yeah, has fallen all the way down to 6th now. He's had an absolute shocker, and that's really going to damn his championship hopes, as Graziano's just pulling away in the lead of the TCR pros right now. He's nearly 3 seconds ahead, and, I mean, in just the space of a few laps, that is an incredible gap by the Italian. And Mariano as well, one of the Honda Civics, one of the lone Honda Civics, is up to 2nd place, and you can just see there back, it's just chaos for Damien Harris. He's just stuck in that midst of the midfield, and well, the TCR pros don't have too many people in them, but you know, he's halfway down the order. He's nearly at the back of the pros, and well, you just have to wonder what that Englishman's going through in his head right now.
Well, I don't think he should beat up on himself too much. We're only 4 minutes, just over 4 minutes into this 1-hour race here. So despite the fact that Damien Harris is down running in P6 as things stand at the moment, he's certainly not out of it. You can see still that the TCRs are incredibly close. We've got incredibly close battles all throughout this field. This is Dalbas. They're currently running in P5 in the GT4 AM category, right in front of Luca Phillip here in the GT4 Pro field. And you can see them going side by side, coming out of turn number 5, heading through the kink of turn number 7. Very tough braking zone here into turn 7. We'll see if he can maybe size up a move heading into 8 in a few moments time, but we already have some interclass mingling, and we're going to see some intercar mingling here in the not too distant future. This track is long, and the pace disparity between the TCRs and the GT4s is a little bit more pronounced here at this track, with a lot more corners and some long flat out blasts as well. So I don't think it's going to be very long until we start to see the GT4 drivers try and negotiate that TCR traffic.
Well, we did see it last time out at Zandvoort, and well, it's one of the worst tracks you want to get multi-class at, to be honest. And well, we saw it, many incidents last week between the TCRs and the GT4s. It's a lot wider here today, but you have got some slower speed, awkward corners that might make lapping those guys just a teeny bit more awkward than you would like. But we've got, I'd say, around 30 odd minutes before we see them start properly lapping the entire field, the leaders anyway, as it's around the time that they usually come into pit as well. We saw some drivers last week pit a little bit earlier to try and avoid the traffic. I don't think it ended up working for them. It's better to just get all of that fuel dumped and just go as long as you can on that fuel tank. And Well, we saw the likes of Lundy and Tailman do that. Unfortunately for Lundy, he just underfueled the car by a teeny tiny bit and had about half a lap less fuel than he needed and ended up finishing, I think, in 4th place. It could have been 2nd for him had he just put that tiny bit more fuel in. But of course, as a racing driver, you're never going to do that, are you? You always want to fight for the win, and he just had a slight miscalculation, unfortunately, and it's been rather... You know, it's been his Achilles heel for this entire season so far. Lundy's pit stops and his strategy has just let him down a little bit. Could have probably won every single race so far this season, but unfortunately just has fallen short of the mark when it comes to coming in for the pit stops. But he is a lone driver, not running with any team. I believe we can get some replays of what happened at the start as well, just up and down the grid, both in GT4s and the TCRs. Here's Leo Dovalet, the 235 car heading into turn 1. This is one of the more awkward corners, and just a slight bump from behind, and not surprising. And like I said, turn 1, and got an extra hit there. Was not expecting that. And well, that explains why he's in the pits at the moment. This is from Rafał Drakalczyk, the Polish driver, the Polish pro driver in the GT4s. Yeah, there was absolutely nothing he could have done. Yeah, that's always the most upsetting accident if you're one of those drivers, the driver that got hit or the driver that hit the parked car. I mean, you just couldn't really see him there from the driver's perspective. That's usually a blind corner as is, because you have that pit exit wall on the inside blocking most of your view, and then you have a car just parked there on the outside. That is going to sting literally and figuratively. But we're seeing a fight now continue. This is Adam Brown, currently running P number 11 right now in the GT4 Pro category. I think he just got past one of the other GT4 AM drivers there, so fairly textbook stuff there. Got past Daubas in that very striking pink car with the teeth on the front end of it. And meanwhile, taking our attention back to the front of the field, Carl Lundy is locked steady in a nice fight between himself and the BMW right behind. I think this fight is really starting to heat up here, Aaron. Well, we've seen the gap come down between these two in the races. In the past few rounds, Tailman has really stepped up his form when it comes to race pace against Carter Lundy. In the first few rounds, it was a little bit more dead set. And again, Lundy just let himself down with pit strategy. Let's hope that he's gotten on top of that this week and Tailman can keep right on the back of him and we can have a full-on brutal fight all the way until the end, because that's what we want to see from both of these guys. As Lundy, of course, is the second man in the championship right now. He's going to have to win this race, to be honest, if he wants to have that little bit of an advantage heading into the next few rounds. It's all about momentum in these types of championships, where this Sportscars Championship isn't too long compared to the other ones that we've had on Apex Racing TV. This one is only about 7 rounds. Usually we go to about 9, 10, maybe even up to 12 if we're feeling we want a really long and fruitful championship, but this one's a little bit shorter than we used to, and Lundy needs to get a win here today if he wants to grab a bit of momentum, put Tailman under a bit of pressure. But honestly, the BMW driver has looked ice cool for most of this season so far, and at the moment he's sitting comfortably in second, and I dare say probably it's Lundy who's the man under pressure here.
I think that is the case. He's enjoyed that beautiful view at the front of the field. He doesn't have a race car in sight for miles in front of him. However, right behind he has 2 cars less than a second right behind. He's got a BMW, and oh my god, that's him being banging there at the front of the TCR Pro category. That was Marino locked steady. I think that was contact between himself and was that Grazino there that he no, my apologies there. That was very hard stuff. I think we may have to take a look at a replay to see what caused all this. Still side by side, heading around the final sweeper to close off this lap. Marino with a great move to hold him off there. But I think we'll take a look at some more angles here of what's been going on between these two, because I think these two may have a little bit of history here, Aaron.
Well, I mean, that was absolutely spectacular stuff from Marino. This, however, was, I believe, with San Martin, though. I know San Martin got involved in that battle, and he's the leader in TCR AMS, of course. And, well, Bonacorsi was just in the background, and yeah, you can see that San Martin not happy with Marino at all there. And Well, they were battling very hard wheel to wheel, and San Martin sends it up the inside, banging wheels. And, well, this is what I was talking about in TCR. This is what they do. This is what they're designed for. Then here comes Bonacorsi saying, hello, I'm going to get involved in this battle. The Hyundai now is in the middle of your screens. Then tries to go up the inside of Marino. They bang wheels. It sends Marino into a drift. Then San Martin just says, thank you very much. I'll have the place back on the pair of you. Well, that's classic touring car racing between those two. And, well, a little bit of controversy, but hey, I hope after the race they'll just shake hands and say, oh, it was just fair and, you know, hard racing. And, well, this is the stuff we drivers love to do, and it's aggressive, but I mean, this is the kind of thing that makes us so giddy when it comes to this kind of thing. Bonacorsi sends it up the inside, gets the place on the Honda Civic driver, but of course Marino not going to want to give that one up as we head through the tight and twisty section of turns 13, 14 and 15. Bonacorsi beautifully round the outside holds the position and is up to second place in TCR Pros. San Martin is just romped away. He's about a second up the road now between these guys, and yeah, can just pull away now as these guys just scrap it out for second place. Graziano is laughing right now. He's 7 seconds in the lead, as that's very late on the brakes for Marino. He's trying everything as the ADX driver, but I don't think he quite has the pace at this current time. But he definitely has the bigger balls out of the two of them. I'll give him that.
Well, credit where credit's due. That was very close and very hard on the brakes, trying to get a load up for the final corner here at Aragon. He is incredibly deep on the brakes yet again. That is so important at a track like this, where you have very heavy braking zones that are key to how you finish. Just having the confidence to get on the brake pedal even 10 meters later than the driver that you're racing next to, that is so important when it comes to these races here with the ARL Sports Car Series. And I think it could be the reason why we're seeing the creme de la creme, so to speak, to invoke a little bit of French here on this broadcast. They're going to rise to the top, and that could be the reason why we're seeing some big gaps develop as well. Currently in both of the TCR classes, we have an 8.3 second gap in TCR-M with Viola here currently in P number 2, 8.5 seconds back of San Martin, who's leading them at the moment. And then the TCR Pro category, it's a 7-second gap that Graziano has there. So very big gaps. Besides the GT4 Pro category, that's still very close, covered by less than half a second between those two right now. And I think the reason why these fields are starting to spread out a teeny tiny bit is just because these drivers at the front of the field are so confident when it comes to that brake pedal.
100%. It's one of the most key things in the GT4s and the TCRs. Of course, the GT4s have ABS, and I believe the TCRs do as well. And, well, me personally, I've never gotten the hang of the ABS in these cars, especially the GT4s. It's just... It requires a certain level of skill and understanding of how it works. And yeah, I've said this a couple of times this season. I wouldn't be very quick in this series. I would be probably one of the slower drivers. I would give it my all, though, because these cars are so much fun to drive and to race. As you're seeing on your screens right now, Riviera and Marino going wheel to wheel as well. That's Damien Harris, who of course had that woeful start, now trying to gain a couple places back and get himself onto that podium. I think the race win probably is way out of the question. I mean, 8 seconds. Yeah, unless something big happens, he's not making that back up anytime soon. As all, that's a bit of a send from the Audi. Riviera really trying to put Mariano under some pressure. Turn 1 is basically a 90-degree corner, and you have to have the full trust in your opponent to make it through that corner side by side. And, well, they just about gave each other enough room. Riviera tried to scare the Italian into making a mistake or leaving the door wide open, but he did not budge at all and holds on firmly to that third place at the moment. And, well, we've got a bit of a super cut right now of Damien Harris making a couple passes as he's tried to make his way back up the TCR Pro field. I believe he's been passing some TCR AMs as well in the midst of it. But we're going to wait until this battle has settled down as it has as we go through the middle of the track. And here is some passes from Damien Harris, the Englishman, who of course grabbed his first victory of the season last time out in Zandvoort. Here is one of the overtakes. Unfortunately, he was gaining on some of the cars that had made mistakes into turn 1. It's a very easy corner as that inside curve is just absolutely deadly. Here's another pass on one of the Hondas. Looked like a fairly textbook pass there, and I believe this is what you're going to see mostly from Damien Harris, as he just easily makes his way past some of these AM drivers and some of the lower down drivers in the pros. I believe this is one of the older Hyundai cars. You don't tend to see one of those really nowadays at all. And well, really fighting tooth and nail with some of these guys. And it wasn't easy for Harris to make some of these passes, but you know, he's proving why he is a race winner this season. And here's another one on one of the Hyundais. Is he going to send it into this next corner? That is a beautiful move into turn 15. Bit of banging doors and bumpers there, but he got past, and I'd say that's just hard and fair racing to me.
That was nicely played, it must be said. Being and banging and roughing each other up is the name of the game when it comes to touring car racing in real life and in the sim as well. Hey, you got race cars, you got doors, you may as well beat the crap out of them. But speaking of being the crap out of, Carter Lundy is getting the crap beat out of him. He's dropped down to third. There's a nice battle between himself and NATO there, who's now taking the lead of the race in the Mercedes. Maybe some being and banging and roughing each other up heading into turn number 14 and 15 right now. But Carter Lundy, who was leading this race fairly comfortably, has now dropped down to P number 2. May try and take the lead of the race yet again. Him and the Mercedes are going to be side by side here, taking the inside line there. I wonder, does he have a slowdown that he needs to serve or something like that? It's a very strange line that he's taking. The defensive line trying to block off that inside. I think that's what he was trying to do there, and it worked out quite nicely for him as Carter Lundy tried not to go down the inside heading into turn 16 and 17 to close off this lap. But the Frenchman in the 129 car is going to lead this lap here about 17 minutes in, but it's not over yet. Lundy down the inside into turn number 1. Battle last late breakers. Who's going to prevail in this fight now? Tailman is going to look to follow Lundy through. Lundy retakes the lead of the race, and now we've got a side-by-side fight for P2 and P3, and you got more cars involved in this as well. The top 5 in the GT4 Pro category are separated by less than a second right now. Already 18 minutes into this race. There's some great stuff here, and more side-by-side action heading into turn number 5.
I mean, that is absolutely incredible racing from the top GT4 Pro drivers. Well, that's why they're at the top. Clean and fair racing between all of them. They managed to keep it on, and that is what we want to see. And they were all shifting gears. It was Tailman was leading for a second, then Lundy, and then Nadeo, who, by the way, went from third to first, which is just incredible, especially in a Mercedes, which doesn't seem to be one of the faster cars, and just got an amazing run on both of the leaders and just easily took the lead of the race. And well, that is fantastic stuff by the Frenchman. I think Tailman just tried to hang it around the outside and couldn't quite do it, and Lundy just took back second place. But it is fantastic racing between all of them, and well, this is what we want to see until not only the end of this race, but until the end of the season. And you can see there Lundy making a similar mistake to what he did in qualifying, just taking too much speed on the exit of turn 10 there. These cars don't quite have the downforce to really give you that comfortable grip to eke out those track limits like you would in other cars. But yeah, managed to gain back the lead, and it's sort of back to normal now. It's Lundy first, Tailman second, Nadeo third, Strat, and actually Strat got past Sticks in all of that. And well, they were just sort of, you know, just biding their time as these top 3 went wheel to wheel. And yeah, they managed to swap places between those guys as well. And well, it's a good job from the Delatraz Automotive team right now. 2nd and 4th, that's going to be good for the championship. Here's another pass between Gavin Gardner, who's one of your race winners this season. Unfortunately, this race has been a bit more tough for him. Here he goes into turn 1, though. Getting a move done on one of the Audis. And, well, this is wheel to wheel between them again. And you got to say, that livery is absolutely beautiful as he breezes past the Audi. And, well, Matthew, you might be watching this. I'm not sure. Maybe he'll watch it back. But, I mean, you know, he'll agree with me that Gavin Gardner livery is just... oh, it's so beautiful.
Well, besides the very high octave that you hit talking about the very beautiful livery that car has, I think y'all should probably give out an award for the pretty looking race cars. Yeah, very beautiful looking race cars, it must be said here from this series. It's nice to see them. My eyes are being graced with some beautiful liveries here in this series and some beautiful racing as well. There's Luca Philipp, the driver from Switzerland, looking like he's going to get a move done here heading into the final corner, going side by side with the BMW. BMW pulls to the inside, and I think that was just some textbook stuff there. Didn't really fight it too hard. And Luca Phillip moves up a position, but bringing our minds back to Carter Lundy when he lost the lead temporarily not very long ago. He lost it by running wide through turn number 10, and I mentioned that turn number 5 was a real pain in the butt for me. Turn number 10 was equally tricky as well because there is a razor thin edge. It's a tiny little window of opportunity to get around that corner without having any sort of major moments, whether it be a spin or whether it be understeering like you're driving a truck. It's very difficult trying to negotiate that corner without running wide and even picking up a slowdown. So I think turn number 10 is going to bite a lot more victims here in this race than we've already seen.
Yeah, you're definitely right on that. We saw him make that mistake in qualifying, which has ruined his last flying lap, but you know, managed to grab pole anyway. So in the end, did not matter for the Canadian, but you know, still something to take into account when you're doing qualifying and practice laps. Just those few corners where you are struggling a little bit, you just gotta be a bit wary. And this is turn 10, where it's a nice long sweeping left-hander. So one of the only corner names on this track is Marc Marquez corner. And for those who watch MotoGP, you obviously know who Marc Marquez is. And for us who know motorsport but don't really watch MotoGP, the only time we ever see Marc Marquez is the MotoGP Twitter account just posting that he's crashed again for like the 13th week in a row. So, you know, at least he has a corner named after him in one of the more popular MotoGP tracks. And the only other corner name on this track is turns 8 and 9, which I believe is called Sacacorchos, which translates as corkscrew into English. How fun is that of a fact? Every other corner on this track, I don't believe is named, unfortunately. We don't really have any other corner names. And oh my god, that is super close between the TCRs there. They go side by side through turn 16 all the way down onto the front stretch. Here we go then, turn 1. We've seen some incidents here already. It's Ian Manners at the moment who's just about ahead. It's just, Viola trying to turn into the corner, but like I said, it's a 90-degree corner. It's very tricky to turn into your opponent, and well, Russ Fowler's gotten away with that. He's up to second. Viola then is going to be under pressure from Manners and De Silva behind. These next few corners are very technical though. Not an easy place to overtake, but can still go side by side through here, but they look like they've all gone back into single file. And Viola's very lucky he came away with no damage from that. That could have been really bad, but these cars are built like bricks. They can handle a little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact, and well, De Silva's really trying to just find any gap he can. He's trying to look on Manners now as we head down into turns 8 and 9. Now into turns 9 and 10, and still Manners just really... I'm surprised that De Silva was managed to get past there. As they go, fantastic racing between these two. Again, in that older Hyundai, it's one of the slower cars, but he's putting on a fantastic performance as the Frenchman, as Manners now tries to go back up the inside. Into turn 12 we go. That's a really big lunge, but a fantastic move from the Englishman. Manages to get it done up into 4th place. And unfortunately, I'm hearing that Lennart Schnabel, he's out with technical problems, and unfortunate for Schnabel, who has had a bit of a rocky start to this season. He's one of the more successful drivers here on Apex, and well, yeah, just pulls off into the pits. Very smart thinking from the German to not put anyone else under any sign of danger or anything. Just pulls off into the pits and unfortunately has to retire from this race.
Sounds like typical BMW reliability to me, but getting back to the action on track, we have a battle between the old and the new Hyundai. Yeah, I very much know that, Aaron, so that's part of the reason why I said. One of my friends that I used to race with drives a very old BMW that he inherited from his father, and it hasn't had any issues for him. I think the main issue with BMWs nowadays is having to pay like $16.99 just to use the heated seats. But before we annoy any BMW owners here on this broadcast, we should talk about this battle between De De Silva and Manners. It is very hard fought between these two, and it's also good insight to see the strengths of the old versus a new Hyundai. They are running the old and new ones right there, whose model names I do not remember. I believe the newer one that Ian Manners is driving is based off the Hyundai Veloster, I think is the name of it, whereas the old one is based off the old Hyundai Sonata, which is more of a sedan car here in the US. I'm not sure. I think, Aaron, you may be a little bit upset that I called it a sedan. I guess it's is it a coupe in the UK? Is that the correct technical term?
Well, it's either a coupe or a saloon. Depends on the amount of doors, I believe.
Well, at least I didn't say aluminum, so that's good news for me.
You just did.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think you can tell we're halfway through this race. We're starting to aluminium. Yes, I always said it feels wrong for me to say it like that, but I think before we start a second British, actually, I guess it would be a repeat of the War of 1812. I think we'll talk about the racing that we have on track. Carter Lundy is still leading it right now, currently a quarter of a second over himself and Tailman right now, but it's still not over between those two, and I think the gap is actually decreasing right now between Tailman and Lundy. I don't have a very good feeling about Lundy, it must be said. This is the second time he's feeling the pressure and feeling a challenge here in this race, so I'm curious, is Lundy going to hold out in this fight even though we're less than halfway into this race, Aaron?
Well, like I mentioned a couple of times, his Achilles heel has been those pit stops, and well, has he managed to iron it out for this race? At times he's overfueled, and of course last week he underfueled, and it's just not gone the Canadian's way. And well, that's what we're all anticipating today, that he has improved. He can take the fight to Tailman all the way until the end, and well, we'll see what these two can come up with. And well, when you're racing someone for a championship in those pit stops, you want to get out ahead of them, so of course you just think, I'll just put 1 litre less and I'll get out and I'll be fine, I'll just save it during the race, and then you end up with no fuel by the end. So this is what racing does to us. We make stupid decisions just to get a win. Honestly, some of us aren't very smart, but hey ho. That's Carter Lundy, who, oh my god, where is he going? That was the widest line I think I've ever seen in my entire life. He's now down to 3rd place. I genuinely thought he was trying to take the alternative layouts. He genuinely is about to cut off the track. But we're going to have to get a replay of what on earth happened there, because it wasn't contact. Tailman was still about 2 tenths behind, so I just think, did it all by himself? Maybe got a slowdown. We're going to take a look. It might have been a TCR. I did say this. It could happen, and well, let's have a look. The TCR goes wide, and it does. It pushed Lundy off.
There was contact. Yeah, there was contact. That we nearly just saw death there as they went through turns 1 and 2 there. I gotta say, Tailman, you can't really blame him too much for making contact there with Carter Lundy, and I think the TCR car didn't have a whole lot of room to go. This is a 1-line corner at best here, so we're gonna take an angle here of Tailman. Yeah, it was contact there. I had my suspicions about that, because when we saw it, Lundy was mega sideways there. So I'm curious, I wonder, well, Carter Lundy, we may have a little bit of dirt on his tires. That's going to affect him temporarily. But I'm curious if either of these race cars have any sort of damage, because that was a pretty significant whack to the back of Carter Lundy's race car. Of course, they do have the pit stops coming up, so they will be able to take a fast repair if they have them at their disposal. But still, that was a pretty significant whack there, Aaron.
Yeah, you're right, but the only thing I'm thinking is these cars are kind of built like bricks, so they can take a bit of a knock. But like you said, that was a bit more of a knock than I think they were expecting. And yeah, you can't really pin the blame on Tailman for that. That was just a bit silly from the TCR. If you're going to go wide and make a mistake, you just got to stay off the racing line. And yeah, unfortunately, they all clustered into turn 1. And here we go, same car, same spot into turn 1. This time, though, he's learned from his mistakes from last lap. And well, sometimes as a driver, you need to make a mistake to learn from it, and then you'll be a better driver because of it. And unfortunately, it came at the cost of Carter Lundy, who, well, is down in 3rd right now. And of course, we said he's basically got to win this race if he wants to keep that championship alive and have that momentum heading into the next 3 rounds. And well, 3rd place at the moment wouldn't do it. It would kind of hurt his championship hopes, to be honest. And Tailman would just pretty much need to finish 2nd for the rest of the season, and he should be fine, as Tailman's now a 2nd ahead of Nadeo, and Lundy needs to get past the Frenchman pretty much as soon as humanly possible and not let Tailman romp away with it, as now we're starting to see a few drivers come into the pits. And like I said, some drivers like to come into the pits before they hit the TCR traffic, and Mike Pulich is going to come out in between the two McLarens. And we saw Lewis Ward as well come into the pits on the previous lap. He's a couple seconds behind. And Lewis Ward again having a really, really slow pit stop, which unfortunately cost him a podium last week. And, well, it's cost him a couple places again today. And, well, that's what I'm saying. These pit stops are super, super important. Lewis Ward spent 2 seconds extra in the pit lane. That is huge.
Yeah, pit stops can make or break your race. There can be no doubt about it. I've seen it put on full display in the Weekend Warrior series, and even though it's an entirely different race car, is pretty much the only thing you can compare about these GT4s and TCR cars to the Formula Fords and the Spec Racer Fords that run in that series, is the fact that all of them have 4 wheels. But the pit stops in those races are so incredibly vital in terms of how you're going to finish in the race and how you may fare in the championship. So when it comes for Carter Lundy, you know, we have talked about throughout this broadcast, so we'll mention it again here, that the pit stops have been his Achilles heel. The strategy has been his Achilles heel as well. He really has to rely on that strategy. He's currently 1.3 seconds back of your leader Tailman, and he needs to win this race if his life depends on it. So now I'm wondering, at this stage of the race, as we're seeing the TCRs start to come down pit road, how would the traffic situation look if some of these drivers came into the pits? We may need to pull up the track map graphic to see if there's any sort of window of opportunity if these drivers come down pit road and would be able to exit out back on track with a clean space of there. Yeah, you can see the field is fairly spread out right now. You have a small little pocket of air every now and then, but besides that, most of the track is pretty booked right now. So I think we may see some drivers stick to their normal strategies, not try and go for some undercuts, just because if you go for an undercut and you pick up some traffic, you'll be in for a world of hurt.
Yeah, you basically hit the nail on the head. It is a risk coming into the pits early, but if it works, well, you've put on an absolute blinder and gotten ahead of your opponents. So, yeah, we're seeing some drivers coming in about a lap or 2 earlier than we would expect. Usually they can go until around the 38 minute mark, and then they can fuel all the way until the end, and they should be fine. But some drivers thinking that TCR traffic might cost them a little bit too much, as, well, this is what you were talking about, Ron, as Dubois coming very slowly out of the pit. So I'm not sure he's realised he can take off the pit limiter, as he's crawling out of the pit lane. Was the Frenchman. You weren't allowed to take out the pit limiter as soon as you exit the pit line, and I think he thought you had to keep it on all the way until the end. And so he's lost quite a lot of time from doing that. As there's one of the TCRs pulling off into the pits. That's one of the Hondas, I believe it's Martin Kovacic, who's currently in 5th place in TCR. He's not doing too bad at the moment, but I mean, of course, he's, you know, like 25 seconds behind the leader. But San Martin is kind of in a league of his own. He was 1.3 seconds faster than second on that last lap. I am astounded at that gap, to be honest. That's insane. That's Max Verstappen levels of OP, and, well, I mean, apart from Miami, I guess, but that is incredible driving from San Martin, gotta be said. He's an absolutely amazing performance today so far. Here comes Dominic Engel into the pit lane, and he is the driver currently leading the GT4 AM Championship and has had a pretty good race so far. Let's see what his pit stop time is going to be like. And San Martin, honestly, at the moment is fighting with the pros, which begs the question, maybe he's been put into the wrong category. I mean, 22 seconds ahead of his nearest rival and fighting for P3 in TCR Pro. Maybe, Sam, maybe if you're watching, you might want to bump him up, because he has incredible pace on this race anyway, and hats off to San Martin. One thing about San Martin, one of my local pubs is called San Martin. Maybe that's just my inner alcoholic coming out, not sure. But anyway, he's coming into the pits right now. Speaking of the Spaniard, let's see if he can come out in front of second place. That would be a feat and a half.
My inner alcoholic coming out has to be the most out-of-pocket quote I've ever heard on a broadcast here on Apex Racing TV. Well done, Aaron. That was very well done, but San Martin just absolutely dominant in this race. Maybe I just have a really bad attention span, but if I were him with a 23-second gap, even before he came down pit road, I'd probably be on the phone throughout the vast majority of the first half of this race. He's now losing the race right now, and actually Fuller and Viola are coming in, so it's now given the lead to Manners, and San Martin already out and away. 17 seconds stopped in the box there. We'll see how long he spent down pit lane. 44.0, so fairly quick in and out, it must be said, for San Martin there. I'm curious, did he underfuel that car? Probably not, hopefully not. He has no real reason to take a big bite and try and risk it in the later stages of this race, because with a 22-second gap, he could probably use a bathroom while he was down pit lane and would still be exiting this race with the lead. And we have the drivers in the GT4 Pro category coming in as well, including Carter Lundy.
Yeah, surprised that Lundy has come into the pits already. Not sure if that's based on fuel or if he's just trying anything he can to get ahead of the two drivers in front of him. It was a fairly speedy pit stop, not the speediest we've seen so far, but you can see Pascal sticks behind, was just a couple seconds quicker, and actually has caught right up to the back of Lundy. So that should be interesting. Obviously, Lundy probably has the pace, but yeah, just again, not the quickest pit stop from the Canadian. Strat had an awful pit stop, 56 seconds for him. That's awful for the Delatraz Automotive team, and he's definitely going to have lost a couple places because of that. Out comes one of the GT4 AM drivers. This is Herb Howe, currently sitting in 4th place. Zalecki, who's currently leading, has not pit yet. So we'll wait and see for him, as everyone kind of is coming into the pits. We are seeing everyone go to the limit of how long these fuel tanks can last, as Graziano, the leader in TCR Pro, coming into the pit lane now. He's had a rather comfortable race so far, and then everyone else right behind him. Just goes to show how much quicker he's been than the rest of the grid so far today. And I was about to say we're expecting Tailman and Nadeo to come into the pits, and there they are, just in the background coming in, and they are one of the final few drivers to not make a pit stop. And let's see how quick they're going to be. I'm going to have a guess Nadeo might be able to get out quicker than Tailman, as he has been behind. He has had the benefit of slipstream. Being the car in front probably means you are using the most fuel, so we'll keep an eye on who comes out first between those two.
I think Tailman may have gotten some good fuel mileage during that first stint as well. You can see Carter Lundy 51.4 seconds down pit road compared to Stick's 49.0. So we'll see how it is for Tailman and Nadeo, where they're going to be exiting the pits here in the not too distant future. Let's see how they are in the pit box itself. Nadeo out and away 22.6. He is very close to jumping Tailman, who's 23.8 seconds stop there. And Carter Lundy once again very slow in the pit, so I think he may have overfueled that car a teeny tiny bit. I think with how long he led this race for, he just got some awful fuel mileage. It may have been the reason why he's had to drop back, take so much more fuel, and be in the pits for about 2 seconds longer than his competitors. So now Tailman and Nadeo are still very close, about a half a second separating those two. Meanwhile, Carter Lundy is in a fight of his own to maintain that podium position over Peter Sticks there in P4.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably see Carter Lundy catch back up to the leaders, as, I mean, we have seen him make poor pit stops before, but with that extra fuel, and of course, I believe they all have come into pit for new tyres as well. Only fronts or rears? I still have yet to ask that question. I think that's what I'm going to say for the interview. What tyres are they taking, fronts or rears? If it was my guess, I'd say rears probably makes the most sense. Taking fronts would just be deadly. I guess in these cars it would make more sense, as compared to the GTPs, which I'm used to. If you take just fronts, well, the front of it literally is like you're running zero wing and maximum front wing. The front of the car is so pointy, and that's what I'd expect it to be, but maybe I'm completely wrong. We'll save that question for the interview later on, as Lundy can put those tyres to good use and try and catch back up. He's already made some good ground on this lap anyway. He's already caught up by about 0.4 to Tailman at the moment, but you know, maybe Tailman has got a bit of fuel saving to do. Maybe he's just easily letting those tires warm up, get into their operating window. Same with Nadeo. And well, Lundy has done this before. He has been a long way behind and then magically just catches up to the leaders. So just keep an eye on the Canadian, because, I mean, his pace, when he wants to be, it's just incredible.
I think I'm going to fact check myself real quick and talk about the man right behind Carter Lundy, who I may or may not have called Peter Sticks earlier. It's Pascal Sticks, the Austrian driver, currently in P4 right now. Peter Sticks is his long-lost cousin, and oh my god, who was that down the inside? That was a very disturbing noise I just heard from my colleague there. I thought it was a noise that the TCR traffic was making down the inside that Carter Lundy just had to negotiate, rounding his way through turn number 2. That threw me for a loop. That's for darn sure. Carter Lundy negotiating the lap traffic right now around the outside of turn number 6. I think Carter Lundy has to be a man on a mission. We have less than 20 minutes left to go here in this race, and Carter Lundy doesn't have the fastest lap in that GT4 Pro category. It's currently tailman at a 156.977 there. So Carter Lundy, he's going to have to take a pretty big bite if he wants to take the lead of this race in these upcoming 19 minutes, because as we've said throughout this broadcast, and we'll say it again here as he continues to negotiate lap traffic, riding his way around turn number 10 there, Carter Lundy has to win this race. So I think he's going to have to pull off some absolute heroics if he wants to close a 5-second gap in just about 19 minutes time.
Well, he was gaining on the leaders, and well, that TCR traffic has absolutely killed his momentum. And well, 5 seconds behind the lead. I mean, I know he's quick, but I don't think he's that quick to catch 5 seconds in about 20 minutes time. But he'll give it his damn best, as that's what Carter Lundy does. You know, he just pushes all the way until the end, and it's not going to be any different today as Tailman just sails off into the lead. I don't think Nadeo quite has the pace to match up to the Belgian. He just looks like he's in a league of his own today. Again, didn't have the best qualifying, but just that race pace from Nadeo, from Tailman, sorry, is something else, and really has been the reason why he is, well, he's leading the championship at the moment, and well, is one of the favourites to win this championship, and it will be very, very impressive if he's to go on and do so. Everywhere else, though, it's not really too close. It's 8 seconds between the two cars in GT4. It's 8 seconds between TCR Pro, and 30 between the two drivers for first and second in TCR AM. So yeah, not the race is settled down a little bit at the moment. Just everyone trying to eke in those new tyres and save a bit of fuel. And I have the feeling most drivers at this point in the race are just trying to get to the end.
I don't think people really appreciate how big a 30-second gap is. That is very impressive from this man, Stan Martin. He is still driving his balls off right now, and you can see when it comes to actually top speed as well. Ian Manners is currently leading that in the TCR AM podium at a 229 kilometers an hour. I'm not sure exactly how much that converts into American jumble there, but still very fast in these TCR race cars. And I'll tell you what, we were talking about Stan Martin earlier and how fast of a driver he is right now. I'll take a look at my live timing screen to see what kind of laps that Stan Martin is setting, but he is an incredibly quick driver. His current fastest lap of the race, well, his last lap was at 2:02.14, which is actually faster than the lap times I was setting in a GT4 car doing some testing here for this race earlier on today. This is Kovacs heading his way through the corkscrew section, going for a big drift there. Is he going to hit the barrier? No, he does not. He goes through the MotoGP penalty section there on the outside of turn number 9. We may have to take a look at another angle here of Kovacs in this beautiful drift, heading through the corkscrew section, clipped a little bit of that curb on the outside, gets the weight transfer, all sorts of wrong there in that Audi, the Hungarian driver. Very lucky that he got away with that incident without any sort of major damage. I think he's definitely got some flat spots on his tires and maybe a brown spot in his pants after a moment like that. However, he's still on track with a somewhat clean race car, and he's going to try and look to round off this race, which is not going very well for him.
Well, I mean, in the last few days I've been playing the older Need for Speed games, and well, that just reminded me very much of just the drift mode. Honestly, I've never seen a drift like that. I'm actually surprised that he managed to hold on to it, and well, decent car control there from the Hungarian. And well, speaking of Hungarians, here's Desessi. This is him trying to get past lap traffic while also trying to fight Strat at the same time. And well, this is what you get in multi-class racing. You're both trying to fight each other and also both trying to outsmart each other, going for those moves on the slower cars. And well, as someone who used to religiously drive IMSA, that was just my life for like a couple months. And it's just what you're trying to do all the time. You're just battling with someone and you're thinking, you know, you can see a car in the distance that's, you know, an LMP2, a GT3, or in this case, a TCR. And you're just thinking, you know, when will I catch up to them? And if they go for a move, should I try and follow on through, or should I try and outsmart them, go for a different move? And it's just a constant mind battle in multi-class racing. And that's why so many people love it. And well, that's why these guys love it. And well, it's providing some much needed entertainment at the moment. And Carlton Lundy falling back, unfortunately for him. And well, you know how quick he is, but he's just not quite matched up to the pace of Tailman and Adeo on today's race. And well, while he was leading, he looked under pressure pretty much all the time from those guys and couldn't really pull away like we were expecting. And well, I'd say third is probably pace-wise where he kind of is today.
It's still got sting though, finishing in P number 3. Usually a driver would be over the moon with a podium, especially in a series run by Apex. However, Carter Lundy, as we've mentioned all throughout this broadcast, and we'll mention it once more here, he needed to win. It looks like he's not going to win. There's less than 15 minutes left on the clock here before we see the checkered flag. And Carter Lundy, unless something dramatic happens, which again, anything can happen between now and the checkered flag, it looks like he's going to be finishing this race with a somewhat disappointing P3 after leading it for a vast majority of the beginning stages. However, the fight between Tailman and Nadeo is still not over. They have more lap traffic to negotiate. I see a TCR Honda, I believe, farther up the road right now, so they're gonna have to deal with them, I think, heading through the tight twistiness of turns 12, 13, 14, and 15 here. That, or they may have to negotiate them coming around the final corner. Either way, I'm kind of split on who's going to prevail in this fight. Nadeo and Tailman are fairly evenly matched pace-wise, and right now Nadeo has the benefit of some slipstream as well. So I think it is going to be very close to see who will prevail in this fight. Who's going to prevail when it comes to dealing with the lap traffic as well. We'll see who holds off in that fight. San Marin, who's dominated the race in the TCR AM category, is negotiating with some TCR Pro drivers right now, and soon enough the GT4 Pros are going to have to deal with San Marin. Of course, San Marin, with the gap that he has, he may just jump out of the way and won't fight it too hard. San Marin racing quite hard. It'd be interesting to see him in the TCR Pro category. I wonder what position he would be running in if he was in TCR Pro. That'd be nice to see, Aaron. What do you think?
Yeah, he's I mean, I don't think he's been as dominant as today throughout the rest of the season, but I mean, today is just another level. I think at the moment he'd be around third or fourth in terms of TCR Pro, which is still very respectable. But I mean, in terms of TCR Pro, then he would be 12 seconds behind the leader in that category. So, you know, do you want to be dominant in one category, or, you know, still be way far behind in TCR Pro? You know, I mean, he's probably gonna take this championship with ease, to be honest. Voice crack. But yeah, fighting hard with the TCR Pros, kind of surprising, to be honest. I mean, you do, I believe you finish, the amount of points you get, you do get them where you finish in the category that you're in, not class. And I've never, oh my God, I was not expecting that. And well, that's Mariano, I believe, who's just shoved San Martin out the way. And well, I guess the only thing I can think of is the fact that they're in different classes, and Mariano's thought is, you know, you're an AM, why on earth are you fighting me? And you do get drivers who do that sometimes, and well, if I am correct, I mean, San Martin has every right to fight him. He's another car at the end of the day, the same class. So, and I'm not quite sure why Marino is getting so annoyed there, unfortunately. I've not seen someone just blatantly push someone off the track like that before, but fair enough. He was not happy at all. And we can get a replay for you of what on earth just happened. As San Martin did get a run on the Italian and goes for the move into turn 8. And it's fair up until this point, cuts his nose off, but fair. And then Mariano just bumps him off of the track and just doesn't. Yeah, that was one of my Josh Wilkie here saying that was on purpose, and you know what, I agree. That definitely didn't look very sportsmanlike. And I would not be surprised if the stewards had a look at that after the race, to be honest. That was, yeah. I'm not sure I agree with that.
Yeah, well, I guess I have a bit more free reign now, considering that I'm not the usual commentator here in this series, and this might be my one and only time here, but I think that may have been, you could describe that as a jackass move there from Marino. We're going to take a look at a replay here of Pascal Stix and Carter Lundy. This battling heading into the final corner here, side by side, 2 drivers and 2 Porsches. Who's going to prevail in this fight? Stix around the outside. That is bold stuff if he was able to get the move done there, but around the outside at a very long corner where it has pretty much no banking and you're going uphill, and the grip seems to fall away from you and the corner seems to tighten up as well. It was an uphill battle for him. But touching back on that incident there with Marino and our leader in TCRM, San Martin, that was very tough stuff between them, and now you can see Tailman getting involved in that fight. What in the world happened to Nadeo? He's dropped back like a rock. Carter Lundy has slotted into P number 2, so what in the world happened to Nadeo? It looked like he may have had a shot to win this thing, but in a very dramatic series of events, he's dropped down to P number 4 and is currently 12, nearly 13 seconds back of our leader Tailman. What in the world happened here, Aaron?
Well, we're about to find out, as this is, this is after what's happened. He's reversing back onto the track and unfortunately had to wait for the drivers to come back through. Very respectable by the Frenchman, and I can understand in his situation why he'd want to get straight back onto the racing line, but was that San? I don't think that was San Martin. I don't think so. I think it was one of the Audi drivers. I'm not 100% sure. It was one of the TCR pros. I'm not 100% sure. I think it might have been Riviera who was the one who made contact with Nadeo. But once again, I'd like to say, to the Frenchman, fair play for not just coming straight back on the racing line. As again, it's always good to see drivers, sensibly rejoining the track, and those type of things, need to be commended, ought to be shown off. And I don't think driver respectiveness gets paid attention to enough. So fair play to the Frenchman for just waiting and being patient. But here you go. And yeah, it was Riviera who made that contact. And yeah, I'm guessing probably maybe a bit of an ambitious move from Nadeo, trying to lap the TCR car, and just ended up spinning him out. And well, sometimes that just happens in multi-class racing.
I think we're going to take a look at another angle of that incident between Nadeo and that TCR traffic, and it's hard to really say what the drivers were thinking. We're not going to try and get into the mind of those drivers, but I think it may have been a bit of a very defensive block here from Nadeo on the inside. Yeah, you can see he's drifting out there, and also trying to rejoin the track was a TCR driver. So I think you can't really pin the blame on one driver more than the other. There's definitely, I think both drivers can share blame in that incident. It was just 2 cars trying to fight for the same piece of real estate at this circuit, and sadly for the both of them, it ends in some sort of major disaster there for Nadeo. He was running in P number 2. Sadly for him, he's dropped back like a rock, and it's pretty much all over for him when it comes to fighting for a podium. He has to claw up, I think, about 3.5 seconds if he wants to get past Pascal Stix between now and the end of this. But Nadeo, all credit where credit's due. I don't think he said anything rude over the chat. I think he may have accepted blame for that, just running a little bit wide and racing that TCR with not the same sort of I'm trying to look for the right word here. Not racing the TCR driver with the same sort of respect, I guess would be the correct technical term to describe that. But regardless, it was just a very unfortunate incident to happen so very late into this race. I'm sure Nadeo is not very happy with how things have shaken out there, but just a very tough incident there.
Yeah, and well, like I said, that just happens in multi-class racing. And well, this time it's just the 2 TCR AMs going at it as we head side by side down to the last corner, turn 16. As like you said, Ron, this corner is not really a banked corner, and unfortunately it's so hard to just keep the car on the outside there. But Viola's now going to try and have another go as we head into turn 1. De Silva's trying to defend this and pinch him on the inside, which, to be fair, is what you'd want to do, as if you pinch a driver on the inside, they will get a terrible exit, as that's just proven it. As well, that was some pretty aggressive stuff from De Silva, but I'd argue that was pretty fair. I mean, again, it's wheel banging between these two. and just pinched him on the inside into a 90-degree corner and kept on to 4th place. That was a round of applause to Silver. That was really good defensive maneuvering there, as now Viola is being lapped by one of the GT4 BMWs. As well, again, the lapped traffic, let's hope he can keep it clean this time. We've already seen a couple incidents today between the multi-class racers, and again, it's debatably worse for the slower cars, because you've always got to be checking your mirrors, constantly checking your relative, making sure you leave them enough room, hoping they leave you enough room. And yeah, it's much easier being the faster car, as you know, you just have to, you know, sometimes have a bit of patience and just pick them off on a straight or down into a braking zone and just be a bit sensible. But the slower cars have got to really be on it and have a lot of spatial awareness, which is why, you know, drivers in TCRs or GT3s really ought to be commended a lot more, because they have to have, you know, the spatial awareness, you know, like a pigeon. They need 180 vision, to be honest, and some of them somehow do have it, and it's very impressive what they do. Sometimes, unfortunately, incidents like that do happen, but, you know, this racing, stuff happens, you move on, and just move on to the next races. Nadeo will very much be feeling that right now as well. Unfortunately, he's lost the chance to battle for the lead of this race. He can at least get 4th place, which still is a very respectable finish from the Frenchman, gotta say. And, well, we're gonna just take a little breather as Eaton comes into the pit lane. That's interesting. I wonder if he has underfueled, as we have seen that a couple times this season already, as he was going on for a pretty good race. He's slipped down to 4th, though, from having this pit stop. And also Dominic Engel has not had a fantastic race today. Of course, he is the one that's usually leading in the GT4 AMs, but Rampazzo is the leader this time round, and, well, he's being extremely dominant, nearly as dominant as San Martin, 23 seconds in the lead. He's putting on a fantastic performance in that Mercedes, and he's just in a bit of a world of his own right now. But, you know, people like to point this out. You know, winning is winning by, you know, a meter or a mile. You don't get any bonus points, but I guess it's more for bragging rights, isn't it?
Yeah, it's mainly just trying to get the best result you can, and if you win by a wide margin, you can brag about it until the next round of the season in 1 week's time. We've got some pretty wide margins all throughout all the classes that we have here right now. GT4, 8.5 seconds separating those drivers. Really, in GT4, the main fight is Nadeo trying to stay alive right now, currently running in P number 4, and it was very close between himself, Deshi there in P number 5, and Strat there in 6th. However, Deshi and Strat have actually dropped off the back of Nadeo right now, so I think that 3-car fight may turn into a 2-car one, as we are going to take a look at a replay of what may have broken these drivers up. I think it's, again, traffic. That's a big factor here in the dying stages of this race, and Deshi very side-by-side. That's himself, and straight going side-by-side. Strat, my apologies, going side-by-side through the tight, twisty sections of turns 13, 14, and 15 there. Hard-fought battle, but with them going side-by-side, it's allowed Nadeo to pull a big gap. He has some TCR cars between himself and his adversaries there in the GT4 Pro category, so I think he is going to have a somewhat comfortable run between now and the checkered flag, which is coming in about a minute and a half time, so I think we're either on 2 to go, or we may be taking the white flag in the not too distant future. Now, some pretty big gaps between all the drivers at the front of the fields in the GT4 Pro category, GT4 AM category, and both of the TCR classes. All these drivers at this stage, I think their main goal is just to stay alive. This is Grazino right there, who we are following right behind the leader overall in GT4 Pro, that being Tailman, who is heading his way through turn at number 14 now. He's going to be taking the white flag in just a few moments time. Carter Lundy, who, even though he's going to end up in 2nd, where it looked like he was going to finish in a surefire 3rd, is not going to be too happy with the result that he had. However, 2nd place is nothing to scoff at either. But this man, Tailman, he has put together a pretty good drive in just a few moments time. He is going to take the white flag, and I think there's going to be more of a victory lap than anything else, with an 8.7 second gap to Lundy behind.
Yeah, most definitely, and I think the only thing he might have to worry about is traffic, if he gets any, which I think he's in the clear. You've got a duplicate Barney. I'm surprised to see that. I just saw 2 Barneys waving the white flag. I thought there was only one Barney, but apparently he has a twin brother here in Spain. Kind of reminds me of Top Gear, you know, Barney's Spanish cousin, waving the second white flag, so fair enough between those two. But here's Gavin Gardner, the beautiful Hyundai Racing against Viola. This is for 5th place in TCR AM, and this is one of the corners we've seen drivers go side by side all of today, which I must say I'm surprised at. I thought the 13, 14, 15 chicane would just be kind of dulled down, but, you know, drivers have absolutely sent it through there. The Union Jack on the top of Gavin Gardner's car, you know, I'm cheering for him. Go on, Gavin. Go for the move around the outside in that pink and blue Hyundai machine. He's holding it around the outside beautifully. That's a very, very tricky line to hold on to. Viola's giving him it the best he can as they head across the line for their final lap of the race into turn 1. They're going to go. Gardner has more of a car ahead, but that inside line is very, very tricky to try and best. And unfortunately, this time for Gardner, he did not manage to beat Viola this time round. And very good racing between these two. The Italian holding on to 5th, and they're going to battle until the end of this final lap. It's just, I mean, they're 40 seconds behind San Martin. I know we keep reminding you of that gap, but that is huge. Genuinely, that gap is really impressive from San Martin, but I don't think they care. They just want to get these last few points. That's it. Oh, Gardner's trying to find any room that he can, but he can't, and forces Viola very wide. And now Gardner's just swoops on through. That's the end of that battle for now, but we're going to cut back to the start-finish straight, where it's the Belgian Lucas Tailman taking another back-to-back victories here at Zandvoort and now at Motorland Aragon. Lundy seems to be happy. Shockingly enough, I thought he'd be disappointed with second, but fantastic job from him in the end to finish in second after being in 4th at one point. Good job by the Canadian, but Tailman, a fantastic job by him. Here comes San Martin for one of the most dominant victories I have ever seen in my entire life. He wins in TCR and Graziano as well, crossed the line in first for TCR Pro. And now 2 victories in a row, Zandvoort and now Aragon for Tailman. It's given him that momentum heading into the next few rounds, and well, I genuinely think fully this is now Tailman's to lose. He's got a nice big gap at the front. I think it's going to be around 15 to 20 points, and that is huge. That is huge in a championship like this where they're so close. He celebrates the race win with his teammates. They're going to pick up a nice chunk of points for the championship teams as well. And well, fantastic job from Tailman. And well, it was a bit more of a boring race, but I guess at Aragon you kind of expected that.
Well, this track is a lot more tight and technical than we've seen so far this season. However, with some pretty big asphalt shoulders around this track, if you do make a mistake, you're not going to be in a whole world of trouble. But Tailman with an absolutely dominant drive, and what a time to do it as well, getting 2 victories in a row in round number 3 last time out at Zandvoort, and round number 4 here at Aragon. With the halfway mark of this race that we just had, that we grabbed the checkered flag of a few moments ago, we are now over halfway through this season, only 3 rounds to go, beginning with next week at the Nürburgring. So there's still a lot of racing left to go for these drivers, 3 rounds left. However, Tailman with the momentum on his side, 2 victories on the season out of 4 races. I think I'm with you right there, Aaron. I think it may be his championship to lose. He's going to have a whole lot of momentum coming into the second half of the season. As long as he can keep it clean in these final few weeks, I think it's his championship to lose.
Yeah, definitely. He's really stepped it up in the races, and well, I mean, it's just looking like a good championship, really, for just all round. The GT4 Pros, the TCR Pros look to be good as well. And I just think we've got a fantastic series here. And I'm surprised this is the first season that we're doing this, to be frank. And oh, it's been absolutely spectacular. Even today, where it's not been the best race, and yes, it's still been really, really enjoyable. And they've all put on a fantastic show for each and every one of us. And it kind of, like I said, I know I wouldn't be quick in this series, but my God, I know how much fun I'd be having on track. It looks unbelievably fun. And, you know, anyone watching right now, I urge you, if they do another season of this, sign up. It looks so much fun. As Gavin Gardner there celebrating 5th place. As, well, even though he didn't grab an amazing finish, he just loved that little bit of racing. And that's what this is about. Just fun, banging wheels, banging doors, and just not giving a... Yeah, you get the idea. And, well, great racing, great respect from all of these drivers. And again, at a track which usually doesn't provide the best action, it provided a little bit of entertainment nonetheless. And, well, we can go through the finishing order now for you. And, well, while it was a bit of an anticlimactic end to the race, we had some action up and down the field nonetheless. And at the end of all of that, at the end of the hour racing that we had for you, it was Lucas Tailman on top of everyone else, 8 seconds ahead of Carter Lundy. I mean, could have been closer between those two had Lundy had a bit of a better pit stop, but again, pit stops letting the Canadian down, unfortunately. Pascal Stix picks up a podium, a really underrated performance by the Austrian. That is Luca Nadeo, what could have been for him, if not for that incident with the lap traffic. De Sessi in 5th, Strat in 6th place. And we're going to go through in the order of each category. And then Mike Pulich in 7th place. Lewis Ward, again, another poor pit stop from him, leaves him down in 8th place. Luca Philipp in 9th, Adam Brown in 10th, Lennart Schnabel with technical problems down in 11th, and Rafael Drukazic in 12th place and last in the GT4 Pros. Now we're going to take a look through the GT4 AMs. It's Jacopo Rampazzo in 1st place, 24 seconds ahead of Nicholas Herpau. That is, again, it's just pure dominance from the top drivers today. Dominic Engel, the championship leader, probably ought to be questioning, is this championship about to get really interesting in the AMs? And we'll keep an eye on that one. De Bao in 4th, Rowan Eaton in 5th place, Zelke in 6th, Johns in 7th, Grob in 8th, De Vele in 9th, and Carpenter down in 10th place. Don't think he managed to get to the starting grid, unfortunately for him. Then just 6 drivers finished in TCR Pros. It was Graciano in 1st, Damien Harris 2nd, Bonacorsi 3rd, Marino in 4th place, Riviera in 5th, and Sam Blees in last place. And then we only got one more category to go. It's the TCR AM. San Martin with a 35-second win. Don't think much needs to be said about that, to be honest. Again, I don't think I've seen a gap that big, not even by Max Verstappen, in a long time. That is incredible job by the Spaniard, and hats off to him for today's performance. It was really, really good. Russ Fowler in 2nd place, Ian Manners in 3rd, De Silva 4th, Gardner 5th, Viola 6th, Kovacic in 7th, Willie in 8th place, De Hurst in 9th, and Gilmore in 10th place, and last. And, well, that's, again, 38 drivers all gone through, all accounted for. And it was a pretty good race, Ron. I guess this, like you said, this is probably one of the only times you're going to be here, so I'll let you do the honours of what looks to be our only interview for tonight.
Well, I think I was going to take this one anyways, just to give your vocal cords a small little rest after having to go through that many cars in such a small period of time. So we'll bring in our winner, that being Lucas Tailman. Lucas, congratulations on the victory here at Aragon. It was a pretty good race from your perspective. Talk us through it here tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Big thank you. First of all, I would like to thank my team. They helped me a lot in this championship, like for the setup, for the strategy, which is really important. And yeah, we did a good race. We maximize all the potential of the BMW, I think. So yeah, it's a good point for the championship, and we look into it.
And I was listening to an interview from your main rival throughout this race, that being Carter Lundy in the Porsche. He said last week at Zandvoort that the BMW wasn't the best GT4 car, however, with you taking the win. I feel like you may have disproved that, so just talk us through your feelings on driving this BMW.
Yeah, I'm not sure the BMW is not the best GT4. She really need a good setup for going well. And yes, that's what we do and what we try to do. Here in Aragon, the track was good for her. So yeah, we will try to do a good setup for the Nürburgring.
You mentioned it right there. Next time we are going to the Green Hell itself, that being the 24-hour layout of the Nordschleife combined with the Grand Prix circuit. That is going to be a much different race and a much different kettle of fish than what we saw here at Aragon. So just talk us through your thoughts heading into that race in a week's time.
Yeah, and we will have a lot of work to do for that race.
I gotta imagine the setup is going to be vital there for your chances in that race. And you already thanked your team there, spoken like a true professional. We couldn't even get the chance to ask you who you want to give a thanks to or shout out. But just in case you forgot, is there anyone else you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
I would like to thanks my team, my parents for be just behind me and support me, and all the viewers for watching the race. You're the best.
Alrighty, well, Lucas Tellman, congratulations on the victory heading into the second half of the season with a massive head of steam. Congratulations on the victory. Hope to see you next time out at the Nordschleife.
Yep, thank you. Bye.
And that was Lucas Tellman.
And once again, for some reason, the interview waiting area, ARL drivers just have a fear of it. I don't know why.
Yeah, we had this
happens,
didn't we, Aaron?
No one wanted to speak to us.
I feel like our snack game just may not be too good. We don't have enough like chocolate chip cookies for these drivers to negotiate. We don't bite. Like we're not biters here. We're not gonna pull out a gun on you if you come into our interview waiting area. So just drivers, hey, I won't be a part of these broadcasts. I don't think moving forward here for this season, even though I probably will be watching this based off the exciting racing we had. But join Matthew and Aaron and our producer Josh in the commentary booth. We're not going to be verbally assaulting you or anything like that. We just want to have a quick little chat.
I mean, in fairness, I did call one of the drivers a pub, so maybe I've put some of them off. I don't know. But either way, that's going to bring it towards the end of today's broadcast. I'm going insane. Either way, Matthew will be here hopefully next week to return some sanity, and I will be back to just giving you some calm analysis, because as lead commentator, I do end up going insane by the end of the broadcast. But either way, I've been Aaron Smith, joined by Ron Mons, who is far better than me at leading, and I took the reins today because I'm nice. And also Joshua Wilkie, who's been absolutely amazing recently. And we will see you all in 1 week's time at the Nordschleife. That's going to be just insane. Be there next week at the same time as today. Enjoy the rest of your day. See you then.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.